She threw it at me like I was nothing. The mug, white ceramic, with a fading red heart and the words "best husband" half-worn from too many dishwasher cycles, hit my shoulder first, then my chest, then shattered on the floor, its boiling contents soaking through my flannel. I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice. Not because I was calm, because I was beyond it. Either give him access or get out. Emily screamed. Her voice cracked around the edges. Not from sorrow. From finality. From the absolute certainty of someone who'd already erased me in her mind. It was the tea she always made when she wanted something. Not the Lipton bags. The good kind, the kind from the tin that smelled like old books and citrus. She'd brewed it with honey. Probably poured it with both hands. Probably imagined it hitting my face instead of my chest. I stared at the stain spreading down my shirt. Steam curled off the fabric. My skin throbbed beneath it. Cody stood behind her, arms folded like some two-bit enforcer in a movie. He was 25 and dressed like he was 12. Sweatpants, hoodie, baseball cap on backward. Didn't even look at me. He'd already won. He knew it. "You're being dramatic," I said finally. My voice came out flat. "No," Emily said, her lip curled. "You're being selfish." That word hit harder than the mug. I stepped back. Only one step. I looked around the kitchen, the one I'd gutted and rebuilt from the studs. Cabinets I'd installed with my own hands. Tile I'd cut and placed until my knees were raw. That floor had felt the weight of my labor. That room had held years of coffee, quiet mornings, silent arguments. And now it held this. A woman who chose her sons spending privileges over my dignity. "You're seriously willing to do this over a credit card?" I asked. Emily didn't blink. "It's not about the card. It's about trust. You've always treated him like a criminal." "He is a criminal," I wanted to say. I wanted to shove the bank statements in her face, the bounce checks, the gambling sites I'd traced back to his devices. I wanted to ask about the lies, the car that vanished, the borrowed tools that never came back. But I didn't, because none of that mattered to her anymore. "Cody needs help," she added, folding her arms across her chest. "He's trying to turn things around." I stared at her, stunned by the rewrite of history happening in real time. Turn things around? 2 weeks ago, he borrowed money from her sister and ghosted her. Last month, he pawned my tools, the ones I used for side work, without even pretending to ask. Turn things around? He couldn't even turn up for work 2 days in a row. I opened my mouth, closed it again. There was a sound between us. A low hum. The refrigerator? No, my blood. In my ears. In my throat. "You're seriously choosing this?" I said. Emily didn't answer, but her silence was louder than any yes. Could have yelled. I could have pulled out every receipt, every record, every silent compromise I'd made in the last decade. The second mortgage, the canceled vacation, the Christmases that bled me dry so her boy wouldn't feel left out. I could have shouted about the time he called me a backup dad at Thanksgiving and she laughed like it was a joke. But what would have been the point? You don't argue with someone who's already walked out of the room in their mind. So I left instead. I turned, grabbed my jacket. Not the new one Emily bought last year, the one with the fleece lining and the stitched initials on the inside. No, I took the old one. Corduroy and patched, sleeves frayed at the cuffs. It still smelled like sawdust. Like years when I built things that mattered. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back. I stepped into the Bloomington cold. Snow hadn't started yet, but the sky was the kind that promises it. Gray, flat, lifeless. My truck was parked in the driveway. Not Cody's beater with the broken tail light. Mine. The one I'd kept alive longer than I had any right to. I opened the door and sat inside. The vinyl seat hissed under my weight. My skin stung from the tea burn, but I didn't touch it. Didn't even look. The house loomed behind me in the rearview mirror. It looked small from that angle. Distant. Like a model of someone else's mistake. 3 decades I'd spent on that house. Rewiring it. Resealing it. Scraping and painting and lifting beams while my back gave out in tiny increments. When I met Emily, it was falling apart. Roof sagging. Insulation like wet tissue. The furnace died twice in the first winter. She called it a fixer-upper. I called it a second chance. I worked double shifts, skipped vacations, took cash jobs under the table when the bills ran too hot. I did it all so she wouldn't have to worry, so he wouldn't have to worry, so the boy she brought into our marriage would have a safe place to sleep. And now she'd thrown a cup of tea in my face for not letting him gamble on my credit. I leaned my head back against the headrest, closed my eyes. That was the moment it really hit me. Not the burn, not the yelling. The silence. The part where she didn't follow me out. Didn't bang on the window. Didn't run barefoot into the driveway crying like they do in movies. She didn't care that I left. She had Cody. That was enough for her now. I didn't cry. Couldn't. Not from pride, just emptiness. There's a kind of grief that doesn't come with tears. It's dry. It scratches at the back of your throat. Makes everything taste like dust. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. Bank alert. A new user has been added to your account. I blinked. Opened the app. Cody's name. Plain as day. He hadn't waited. He'd already tried to add himself as an authorized user. My jaw clenched. My hands trembled, not from rage, not exactly. From clarity. I saw it all then. Not just the betrayal. The pattern. Cody asks. Emily defends. Hey. Over and over. The roles never changed. Only the excuses. The truck's heater wheezed on. A blast of warm air hit my face. But it didn't register. This was the moment. The line in the sand. Not the tea. Not the card. The look in Emily's eyes when she said, "Get out." Not shouted. Not wept. Just said it. Like I was a tenant whose lease had expired. I reached for my keys. Turned the ignition. The engine coughed, caught. I didn't know where I was going yet. Motel, probably. Maybe the diner on 7th. Angie knew me by name. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going back. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. I sat in the cab of the truck for hours. Watched the frost form on the edges of the windshield like veins spreading across a dying thing. The parking lot at the clinic emptied out. Then filled again. Nurses on smoke breaks. Patients shuffled in and out under dim yellow lights. Somewhere behind me, the burn throbbed against my shirt like a second heartbeat. I should have gone home. Not to that house, not anymore, but to a place I could trust. Except I didn't have one. I'd spent 30 years building walls for other people. Now I was sitting in a borrowed night with nowhere to go. I opened my phone again. Don't know why I did it. Maybe I hoped it was a mistake. Maybe I wanted to see some sign that Emily had come to her senses, that she was trying to undo the damage. But there it was, right in the alert list. New user added, Cody J. M. And under it, transaction approved, fast cash loans, $500. Transaction approved, DraftKings Online Sports, $120. Withdrawal, ATM, $400. All within the hour. He hadn't hesitated. Didn't even pretend to ask. Just took. My name was nothing but a coat he could slip on when it suited him. I tapped into the Statements tab. The list scrolled longer than I expected. I thought the damage would be recent, that it started with the mug, the screaming, the last straw. But the truth was colder. The signs had been there for weeks. Maybe longer. I just hadn't looked. I saw purchases I didn't recognize. Food delivery apps timestamped at 2:30 in the morning. Vape shops in neighborhoods I'd never drive through. Ride shares at odd hours. Video game purchases not just once or twice, but stacked like dominoes. He'd been inside my accounts like a virus, spreading under the skin. He'd memorized enough numbers, maybe guessed a few passwords. Maybe Emily gave him access under the table, just in case. God, that's what broke me. The idea she'd let him. That this wasn't some rogue stunt, but part of the new family order I wasn't invited to understand. I opened my messages. Scrolled back. The last thing Cody ever texted me was 2 months ago. Yo, can I borrow your drill? Not hi. Not thank you. Not even a sentence. Before that, silence. Before that, a complaint about the Wi-Fi. And before that, a question about how fast I could co-sign a lease. That was our relationship. A cash machine with a face. The heater in the truck wheezed and coughed. I turned it off. Let the cold come back in. Felt cleaner than the heat. Honest. I stared at the garage photo in my album. I'd taken it last week. Finally got the shelves up, reorganized the tools, laid down anti-slip mats. Cody had said he might help. Never showed. Emily told me not to be so uptight about it. He's got a lot on his plate. What plate? What job? What life? Everything he had came from me, directly or indirectly. And every time he took more, Emily covered for him like she owed him something. Like I was the outsider. I pulled into a motel just off the highway. One of those places where the lights buzz and the walls are thin enough to hear someone cough 3 doors down. But it was clean. And it was empty. The man at the desk gave me a nod and didn't ask questions. I handed him my card. My other card. The one tied to my pension. Not the joint one Emily insisted we use for family things. Funny how I paid for family things. But only one person ever got called Dad. Once I had a room. I peeled off the shirt. The skin on my chest was raw. Pink. Patch of it blistering. The nurse was right, I should have documented it. Not just for insurance. But for truth. I took a photo. A quiet one. No drama. Just proof. Then I scrolled through my gallery, looking for something else. I didn't know what. A reminder of why I stayed so long, maybe. Picture that made it worth it. But every photo of Cody was staged. Smiles that looked borrowed. Graduation photos where I stood off to the side. Birthdays where he leaned into Emily, not me. The Christmas where I built him a desk from scratch, and he called it kinda lame, before selling it on Facebook Marketplace 3 months later. There were no pictures of gratitude, just evidence of performance. And me? I was the man behind the camera. The one who paid for the cake but never got a slice. I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. The kind with those weird bumps. Popcorn texture, probably full of dust and old regrets. I tried to sleep. Couldn't. So I did what I hadn't dared do before. I logged into the admin panel of our joint bank. The one Emily said we needed for shared expenses. It wasn't just Cody. I found transfers to her sister, the one who never spoke to me. I found automatic donations to a nonprofit Cody had posted about online once. I found a second Venmo account I didn't recognize. Emily's. Under a different name. It all made sense now. I'd been financing a second life. One I wasn't invited into. One that ran parallel to mine, using my name, my money, my silence. The betrayal wasn't sudden. It had been a slow, careful bleed. And I'd let it happen. For love. For peace. For the fantasy that if I gave enough, someday, they'd see me as family. But I was never family. I was convenient. I was useful. And now that I said no, I was disposable. Around 3 a.m. I called the bank. Spoke to someone named Molly. A voice that sounded young but sharp. She stayed quiet while I explained. I didn't cry. Didn't raise my voice. Just told her the facts. She didn't say, "I'm sorry." She said, "Let's get this fixed." We flagged the card. Froze the joint account. She asked if I wanted to change my security questions. I told her yes. I picked ones no one could guess this time. She paused before we ended the call. "Just so you know," she said, "protecting yourself isn't abandonment. You're allowed to draw lines, especially when others won't." I thanked her, hung up, sat there with that sentence in my ears like a new kind of scripture. Protecting yourself isn't abandonment. The next morning, the sun rose slow and gray. I bought black coffee from the gas station down the street. Drank it outside where the wind cut through my jacket. I thought about the last time Cody looked me in the eyes. It had been at Thanksgiving. He was drunk. Said something about how real dads don't make you mow the lawn. Emily laughed like it was a joke. I laughed too. A soft one. But inside something sank. Now I knew what it was. The first crack. That's how it starts. Isn't it? Not with a slap. Not with a shout. With a joke. A half smile. A dig they say they didn't mean. But it stays with you. Because you do mean something. And deep down they know it. I stared out at the quiet road in front of the motel. watched a bird pick at something in the frozen grass. A man walked his dog on the far side of the lot. No eye contact, just two people existing in the same cold. That was the moment I decided to document everything. Every charge, every withdrawal, every lie, not for revenge, for clarity. If I was going to burn, I wanted to know exactly what the match looked like. So I started printing things. Got access to a FedEx account I'd set up years ago for work invoices. Sent myself the statements, labeled them, highlighted, created folders, burned photos, bank logs, call history, card access attempts. It was tedious, ugly, but necessary. Every time I looked at a charge, I remembered a moment I'd ignored. A joke, a sneer, a dismissal I told myself wasn't worth the fight. They were all signs. I just hadn't wanted to see them, but I saw them now, clear as ice on a windshield, and I wasn't looking away anymore. The motel room smelled like mildew and old soap, but it was quiet. No yelling, no slamming doors, no footsteps belonging to people who looked through me in my own home. I hadn't slept more than 2 hours, but I wasn't tired. There's a kind of adrenaline that doesn't feel like a rush, it feels like a clearing, like a fog finally burning off after years of pretending you could see just fine. I spent the night printing, highlighting, labeling, a forensic record of my own erasure. Bank statements marked with red pen, charges circled, photos of my burned chest tucked inside a manila folder. It didn't feel like spite, felt like sanity. At 9 a.m., I called the credit union, then the retirement office, then the loan servicer for the house. Each call chipped away at the old scaffolding, the one I'd built to carry a family that never really existed. Each call built something new, something small, something mine. Molly from the bank called me back. Same even tone, same clarity. "You were right to freeze the joint accounts," she said. "But if you haven't already, move your pension. Today." She walked me through it. We rerouted everything to a private account under my name only. Not mine and Emily's. Not the household account I'd stupidly believed represented shared trust. Just mine. And for the first time in 20 years, I didn't feel guilty about that. "It's not abandoning your family," Molly said. "This is protecting yourself." I thanked her again. When I hung up, I stared at the name of the new account. Michael D. M. Primary. No Cody. No Emily. No joint. Just mine. There was a quiet dignity in that. Not pride. Not revenge. Just the knowledge that what I earned would no longer be repurposed to feed the boy who spat at the table I built. I bought a cheap flip binder from the CVS down the road and filled it with the papers. Each tab labeled card fraud, medical documentation, forged transactions, communication log. The last one was thin, just 2 screenshots of messages. One from Emily, one from Cody. Emily's read, "This is childish. He's your stepson. Grow up." Cody's read, "LOL, enjoy dying alone." 2 lines. That was their response to the wall I had finally raised. That's all the respect I was afforded after paying Cody's rent, covering his debts, and pulling Emily through 2 layoffs and a cancer scare. Not even a phone call. Not even a knock on the door of the motel they knew I was staying in. They didn't care where I was. Only that I'd stopped being useful. That was the shape of the truth. Clean and hard. I left the motel by noon. Drove to the library. Paid $5 to use the public notary. Had the binder's key documents stamped. Dated. Certified. It was a weird kind of funeral. Signing your own trust in front of a stranger with a clipboard. But I needed the paper trail. Then I called the lawyer, Sarah Hill. I'd met her once before. Back when Emily's mother died and the estate got messy. Sarah was sharp. No nonsense. She remembered me. "Michael?" she said. "You okay?" "No," I said. "But I'm finally awake." We met at her office the next morning. She wore a navy suit and didn't waste time. I handed her the binder. She flipped through it with the same expression I'd seen on paramedics at car accidents. "You kept records," she said. "I was married. Not blind." She nodded once. "What do you want?" That was the question, wasn't it? I didn't want revenge. I didn't want them homeless or ruined. I just wanted out with the truth intact. I wanted the damage traced back to the hands that caused it. I wanted my name scraped off the mess they built like barnacles on a hull. I want the trust frozen, I said. There's a forged amendment. Cody's name was never supposed to be on it. She didn't blink. We'll need proof. It's in the binder. Pages 12 through 17. I have the original in a safe deposit box. The new one has different ink. No witness. No notary. She smiled without warmth. Good. What else? I want legal separation filed. And I want an emergency petition for exclusive use of the house. She paused. Domestic violence? I pulled out the photo of the burn. The one from the clinic. It wasn't gory, but it was undeniable. She threw boiling tea at me when I said no to adding her son to my credit card. Sarah didn't flinch. She just turned the page and kept writing. I'd never felt so seen. That night I slept in the truck. Not because I had to. The motel was still paid up. But because I needed to feel the cold again. Needed to feel what was real. I lay back in the cab and stared at the ceiling like it was a sky I didn't believe in. And I thought about the years. Years of groceries. Gifts. Tuition payments I wasn't legally obligated to make. Roof repairs. Car insurance. Phone plans. Co-signed leases. Always me. Always behind the scenes. Quiet. Dependable. And always one step behind whatever disaster Cody made next. I remembered the time I caught him siphoning gas from my generator. The time I found out he was using my tools to do under-the-table jobs without telling me. The time he bought concert tickets with my credit card and told Emily I'd given permission. Every time, she told me to be patient. Every time I obeyed. But patience isn't love. Sometimes it's just cowardice dressed up in virtue. The next morning, I woke up stiff and sore. My body reminded me that I wasn't 20 anymore. That sleeping in a truck isn't brave. It's just what you do when you've run out of places to feel safe. Sarah called at noon. I have the paperwork drafted, she said. There's something else you need to see. She emailed me a copy of the forged amendment. There, in cheap printer ink, was a clause that gave Cody partial access and beneficiary rights to the house. It was dated 6 months ago. Signed with Emily's name. No witness. No notary. Just bold letters and the stink of desperation. It was like finding someone had tattooed graffiti across your chest while you slept. Sarah filed the emergency petition that day. She said it wouldn't take long. That in cases of financial abuse and domestic injury, judges moved fast. That the courts didn't look kindly on forged legal documents. That what Emily and Cody did was criminal, not just cruel. I believed her. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a grave being dug. And all I could do was hope they buried the right names in it. I drove past the house that evening. Just once. Just slow. Lights were on. Cody's truck was in my spot. A cheap, loud thing with tinted windows and bumper stickers that tried too hard. The garage door was open. I saw him inside. Changing the keypad. Installing a new deadbolt. He wasn't hiding. He wanted me to see it. Wanted me to know I wasn't welcome anymore. I kept driving. Half a mile later, I pulled over and sat in silence. That's when I remembered the flyer. I'd seen it a week before. Stuck in the doorframe. A bright yellow thing with bold red letters. Cash offer for homes. Fast close. No banks needed. I thought it was junk. Cody didn't. I remembered the way he held it. Tapped it against his hand like a man thinking too fast and too stupid. He wasn't just changing the locks. He was prepping the house for sale. He thought if he moved fast, he could liquidate it before the paperwork caught up. He wanted to sell my life out from under me. And Emily? She was letting him. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared down the road and felt the final piece click into place. This wasn't just betrayal. This was theft. And now that I'd stopped funding the con, they were going to burn down the stage and run with whatever they could carry. But not this time. Not this house. Not me. They say the law is slow. But sometimes it moves with the speed of survival. Sarah called me 3 days after we filed. The judge signed the petition, she said. You've got exclusive use of the property. Temporarily, but enforceable. Enforceable how? I've contacted the court officer. He'll serve the order in person. Do not approach them. Don't go back without protection. Do you understand? I did. I wasn't a man anymore. I was a liability with paperwork and scars. I spent the next night in a diner off County Line Road. Same waitress I'd known for years. Name tag said Deborah, but everyone called her Red. She filled my coffee without asking. Didn't look at the bandage on my chest. Just dropped a slice of pie on the table like it was medicine. You look like someone who lost everything but still held the shovel, she said. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. That morning I got the call. His name was Jason. Court officer. Voice like sandpaper and sleep. I'll be at the property by 9 o'clock. You don't need to be there. I want to be. Pause. Your call. Just stay back. I parked across the street at 8:45. Sat in the truck. Watched the windows. The house looked smaller. Not because it had changed. Because now I saw it for what it was. A monument to compromise. Every window I'd replaced. Every inch of siding I'd painted. All of it done under the belief that family was something you could build with enough labor. Jason pulled up at 8:58. Black sedan. Badge already clipped to his belt. He walked up the driveway slow, like he'd done this 1,000 times. Emily opened the door. Even from a distance, I could see it. The moment recognition turned to panic. The flash of confusion. Then rage. Cody appeared behind her. Shirtless. Laughing about something. Then he saw Jason. Saw the papers. Everything shifted. Jason didn't shout. Didn't threaten. Just handed over the documents with quiet authority. Emily said something, too soft to hear. Cody stepped forward, gesturing wildly. Jason didn't move. A minute later they were packing. Not in a frenzy. Not with tears. With silence. I watched from the driver's seat. Unmoving. Not because I was calm. Because I was empty. 2 duffel bags. Plastic bin. Cody carried his Xbox like it was gold. Emily held a laundry basket full of folded clothes. No photos. No keepsakes. Nothing that couldn't be pawned or worn. Jason waited at the porch, arms crossed. When they walked past him, he pointed to the street. Not the driveway. Not the yard. The street. They didn't argue. They got into Cody's truck. It started on the 3rd try. Then they were gone. Just like that. The house was mine again. But it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like the end of a siege. Jason walked over to my truck. Knocked on the window. You're clear, he said. Locks need to be changed today. Mail redirected. Document everything. I nodded. Thank you. He looked at me hard. You did the right thing. Doesn't feel like it. He shrugged. It's not supposed to. He left. I stayed. Sat there for another hour. The sun rose behind the house. Lit the roof I'd reshingled 2 summers ago when the insurance claim was denied. I did that job with a torn rotator cuff and no help. Cody said he had plans. Emily said I was being dramatic. I let myself into the house at 10:12 a.m. Everything smelled wrong. Not just lived in. Violated. The thermostat was set to 78. Every light left on. Sink full of dishes that weren't mine. I found my hammer in the bathroom. One of my boots in the pantry. I went to the garage. The keypad was stripped. My tools were scattered. One of the shelves I'd built had been ripped down. My name, scratched into the wooden frame years ago, had been gouged out. Cody had tried to erase me. With a screwdriver and spite. I took pictures. Every room. Every corner. Evidence. Then I found the flyer. Stuck behind the fridge. Bright yellow. Folded twice. Cash offer for homes. Fast close. No banks. There was a handwritten note on the back. An appointment date. Cody's handwriting. Sloppy, arrogant loops. He'd been ready to sell it. Didn't matter that he had no legal claim. Didn't matter that his name wasn't on the deed. He thought the world worked like his phone. Tap the screen, get what you want. I stood there for a long time, holding the paper like it might explain something. Didn't. That afternoon I changed the locks, paid for a new alarm system, called the post office, transferred every piece of mail to a P.O. box in my name only. Then I called the attorney again. Sarah sounded calm, focused. "They'll try something," she said. "I know. We're filing to freeze the trust. Permanently. That forged amendment won't hold up, but they might use it to bluff. Be ready." "For what?" She paused. "For them to come back." They did. 3 days later. It started with the texts. From Emily. "We need to talk. You blindsided me. Cody didn't mean it. He's just under pressure. Can't we fix this? Don't throw everything away over one argument." Then Cody. "Yo, this is nuts, lol. You think a piece of paper makes you king of the house? I'll be back. Bet." I didn't reply. Then came the knock. I was in the kitchen, cup of coffee in hand, watching the camera feed from the front porch. Cody stood there, alone, hoodie up, hands in his pockets. He didn't ring the bell, just knocked. Slow, steady. I didn't answer. He stood there for 20 minutes. Then he left. The next day, I filed a no-contact order. The judge approved it, based on the injury, based on the forgery, based on the evidence. Cody was legally barred from approaching me or the property. Emily wasn't named, but she knew. That night, she left a voicemail. I didn't pick up. Her voice was low, shaky. "Michael, I didn't think it would go this far. I don't know. I thought you'd calm down, that we could talk." There was a pause. Then, "I'm sorry. I should have stopped him. I should have said something sooner." I stared at the phone for a long time. Then I texted one line. "You took it there." I blocked her number. The house stayed quiet after that. Still, cold, but mine. I kept working with Sarah. She traced every financial trail, every charge tied to Cody, every forged signature. We submitted it all. The court date came 2 weeks later. Emily showed up in a gray blazer, hair flat, eyes red. Cody came in jeans and a t-shirt like he was going to the DMV. Sarah laid it out. Photo of the burn. Bank statements. Copy of the original trust. A forensic report on the signature mismatch. Neighbor testimony about the day I left. A recording of Cody threatening to come back. Cody tried to speak. Sarah shut him down. The judge barely blinked. Final ruling. Trust frozen. Home secured under my name only. No contact order extended for 1 year. Legal separation pending division of remaining assets. It was clean, efficient, and utterly devoid of feeling. In the hallway, Emily pulled me aside. Tried to. Her voice was a whisper. "You won, Michael. Is that what you wanted? Are you happy now?" I pointed at the bandage beneath my collar. "You thought this would just pass?" She looked away. "I didn't think it would go this far," she said again. I stared at her, at the woman I married, at the woman who once held my hand through surgery, who once cried in my arms after her father's funeral. That woman was gone. What stood before me was the person who let her son burn me, rob me, and try to sell the floor out from under me. Too late. I walked away, didn't look back. The courthouse doors opened onto a parking lot lit by afternoon sun. Wind cut across the blacktop. My truck sat where I'd left it. I got in, closed the door, and for the first time in years I exhaled. I wasn't happy, but I was done. And sometimes that's the closest thing to peace a man like me ever gets. The house didn't feel like mine. Not yet. After everything. The locks changed, the papers served, the courtroom silence. It still felt borrowed. Like I was walking through the ruins of someone else's life. But it was mine. Legally. Physically. Not emotionally. That would take time. I slept in the guest room the first few nights after the court order. Not because I had to, but because our old bedroom smelled like Emily's lotion and betrayal. I couldn't bring myself to wash the sheets yet. That felt like a ritual I hadn't earned. The silence was heavy. Not peaceful. Not kind. Heavy. Like it was waiting to see if I meant it. If I was really done. I spent the mornings outside. Not to relax. Just to listen. The wind across the backyard fence. The hum of distant cars. The occasional bark from the neighbor's dog. Normal sounds, sounds I used to ignore. Now they felt like proof that the world still moved, even when your house became a crime scene with hardwood floors. I fixed things. Slowly. I repainted the front door. A fresh coat of navy. Covered the dings Cody had left dragging his damn bike up the steps. Tightened the railing bolts. Replaced the brass knocker Emily had insisted on years ago with a plain black one. Stripped away, piece by piece, the version of this house that pretended we were something we never were. One afternoon, I stood in the hallway. The family photo wall was still there. Smiling faces in cheap frames, frozen in holidays that felt like lies now. I took them down. All of them. Emily's laugh caught mid-breath. Cody's fake grin from prom. My arm around their shoulders, always just a little behind them, always angled out of center. I didn't throw them out. Not yet. I packed them into a box, sealed it with tape, and carried it to the attic. A burial without ceremony. The house got quieter. It wasn't that they stopped contacting me. It was that I stopped answering. The voicemails kept coming for a while. Emily, mostly. Guilt disguised as concern. Then anger. Then guilt again. One night, she left 6 voicemails in a row. You don't have to do this. He's still your family. We can fix this. You're being cold. You're not the man I married. Maybe you never were. That last one stayed with me longer than it should have. Maybe I wasn't the man she married. Maybe I'd spent too long becoming the man she needed instead. And in doing that, I disappeared. The silence that followed was different. Not the kind that waits. The kind that settles. Like dust on a table no one eats at anymore. A few days later, I got a call from my neighbor, Daniel. Retired mechanic. Lived 3 houses down. Always had a beer in one hand and a story in the other. Thought you should know, he said. Cody came by. When? Yesterday afternoon. Knocked. Asked if you were still here. When I said yes, he left. Anything else? He left a flyer in your mailbox. My chest tightened. Cash buyer? I asked. Yep. Same yellow flyer. Same handwritten note on the back. Cody wasn't done. He was still trying to find a way back in. Still didn't get it. This wasn't about the house. It never was. It was about power. About control. And for the first time, he didn't have it. I called Sarah. Told her everything. She filed an amendment to the no-contact order. Included Daniel's statement. Cody's attempt to revisit the house was now on legal record. We need to keep the pressure on, she said. I agreed. But pressure works both ways. And soon it came from Emily. She showed up in person. I was in the garage, reorganizing the tool wall Cody had ruined. The motion sensor picked her up before I saw her. She stood in the driveway, hands in her coat pockets, hair down, face pale. She didn't approach the door, just stood there. I stepped out, met her halfway. Hi, she said. I didn't answer. She looked at the door, then back at me. Can we talk? We are. She flinched. I don't want to fight. Then don't start one. Silence stretched between us. Not the comfortable kind. The kind that asks, what now? She broke first. I didn't know he added himself to your card. I didn't help him do it. I didn't believe her. Your name's on the forged amendment, I said. She looked down. I didn't write it. You didn't stop it either. Her voice cracked. I was trying to keep the peace. You kept his peace. Not mine. Her eyes filled with tears. I thought you loved him. I did. That's why I said no. That's why I stayed. That's why it hurts. She took a step closer. I didn't move. I'm sorry for everything, she said. Too late. Too easy. She hadn't come to apologize. She'd come to negotiate. How's he doing? I asked. Struggling. Good. That shook her. I saw it. You don't mean that. I do. Struggle teaches. So far, all he's learned is how to take. I didn't know how bad it had gotten, she said. No. You just didn't want to know. She looked at me for a long time, like she was trying to find a version of me she could still manipulate. But that man was gone. I still love you, she said. I nodded. And I still have the burn marks. That ended it. She turned and walked away. Didn't ask to come in. Didn't beg. She knew. The door was closed. The next day, the final paperwork arrived. Legal separation approved. Property secured. Assets divided. Trust frozen until further court notice. It was over. Not like a movie. No music. No final confrontation. Just a stack of papers and a quiet house. I stood in the kitchen that morning, coffee in hand. There was a new mug on the counter. Plain, white, ceramic. No slogans. No lies. The old one, the one with our family photo, had shattered the night she threw the tea. I never found the handle. I didn't replace it. Some things shouldn't be remade. The fridge was quiet now. No junk food. No missing leftovers. Just what I needed. The remote had new batteries. The thermostat stayed set. No yelling. No late-night footsteps. No doors slammed in anger. Just quiet. Felt like a wound at first. Now it felt like a healed scar. One that ached when the weather changed, but didn't bleed anymore. I sat in the backyard that evening. Cold air in my lungs. A bourbon in my hand. Across the fence, Daniel waved. Didn't say anything. Just raised his glass. And I thought, this isn't peace. But it's a start. The courtroom didn't feel like justice. It felt like a waiting room for the truth. Cold, indifferent, quiet. No one cried. No one shouted. Sarah laid everything out. The burned photos, the forged trust amendment, bank records, testimony from the neighbor. Cody tried to interrupt. The judge silenced him with a glance. Final ruling. No contact, trust frozen, house secured. In the hallway, Emily whispered, I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't answer right away. I let her feel the silence she always filled with excuses. Then I pointed to the bandage beneath my collar. You took it there, I said. She apologized. Too late. The weight of her words bounced off the wall I'd already rebuilt inside me. Her regret was real. But the damage had already been processed, documented, judged. They'd had the last word for years. This time it was mine. I returned to the house. Not as husband. Not as stepfather. Just man and deed. It was quiet. Cleaner without them. The mug with our family photo had shattered. In its place, plain white ceramic. No past. No lies. I made breakfast, alone. Drove to the diner. The waitress gave me a nod, nothing more. A local vet patted my shoulder, silent solidarity. That night, I sat in the chair Cody used to sink into like a king. It no longer held his shape. I thought about everything I gave, everything they wasted. And what I know now is this: love without respect is exploitation. Family doesn't get to bankrupt you and call it love. If they want the wedding but don't invite you, yet still expect you to pay, stand by the window, let them feel your absence and send one message. Cancel it. Dignity isn't cruelty. It's clarity. Silence speaks when no one else listens.